Hello, folks. Cheltenham preview for day two coming up here. We'll try and pick out a few winners for you all for what's to come on Wednesday. Um, it's I find with Cheltenham every year, the more the days go on, the trickier the races get to try and find the winner. I think everyone sort of knows how to have a good day the first day, and um, as it goes on, it gets a little bit more tricky. But sure, look, we'll have a go. The first race on day two is what is now called, I think, the Ballymore Properties Nose Hurdle. It used to be that years ago, and then it went to Neptune Investment. I think it's come back to being the Ballymore race over 2 mile 5. Uh, the horse I fancied for this race for a long time would be a Gordon Elliott trained horse by the name of Battle Over Diane. He has looked very impressive on what he has done in Ireland so far, and I know he's very well thought of within both the Elliott setup and in the Jigginstown team as a whole. Um, he actually struck me as a horse that could go over a variety of trips, but this seems to be the one they have earmarked for him for a long time. And when somebody like Gordon and the O'Learys come up with a plan, I think it's one of these things that you sort of have to sit up and take note. Um, I think he's around 130 favourite at the minute, and if he's that, to me, that actually represents a bit of value. It's it's not very often you say that about one at that price, especially in Cheltenham, but I don't buy into the whole Cheltenham banker thing as such because, well, with any race, anything can go wrong or change, but especially with Cheltenham. But from a long way out, he was one of the ones that I certainly had earmarked as a likely winner. Um, Funnily enough, as regards taking him on with something, I actually think that the horse that might give him most to do might actually be belonging to the race sponsor, Sean Mulryan, who, of course, is the main man behind Ballymore Properties. I have a feeling that his horse, City Island, who is 8 to 1, as I'm saying this, could have a very good chance. He's looked very, very impressive in anything he's done here so far. And naturally, well, I spoke yesterday about Paul Nolan having a bit of a resurgence in form. The same can most definitely be said for City Island's trainer Martin Brazen. And I know Martin from a long way out has said that, uh, to put it tongue in cheek, I suppose, trying to get the sponsor back some of his money was going to be a stated aim, that from a long, long way out they thought that this the the Ballymore race was going to be his target. Uh, and as I say, just I would be all over Battle Over Diane, but I just think that what am I saying? Battle Over Diane, but that City Island could represent a bit of value at at 8 or 9 to 1. Then in the race after that, I fancy a horse by the name of Delta Work trained by Gordon. Previous course winner, won it, I think, the Pertemps last year, I think it was, has looked very, very impressive since going over fences. It may not be the deepest race in the on the card, but uh, I do know for a fact that it's very easy to see from listening to Gordon in various interviews on that what he thinks of this particular horse. He has certainly looked one of the most if not the most impressive novice chaser there's been in Ireland this year anyway. So that would be for the second race. We'd be going for a horse called Delta Work. Third race then tomorrow is one of the first of the notoriously trappy Cheltenham handicaps. Um, there's huge field in it, and it's one of these races where the bookies will be paying extra places, and so each way betting is nearly a must. The two that I have picked out on it was um, Apple Shakira, who is a Nicky Henderson horse. She's a mare. She was entered in the mare's hurdle as well. But the flump for this race, and she's 16 to 1. I just checked the betting before I started recording. She is a JP McManus horse. Obviously, in the Cheltenham handicaps, there are going to be a flood of uh, McManus horses. Now, I'm not actually sure whether there was any official change in the McManus riding arrangements or what was what, but of what's in it, Barry is riding her. She was a horse that was very well, highly regarded as a novice. Probably hasn't lived up to maybe what was expected of her, but she's a horse I would certainly have a look at in the third race tomorrow, along with the Alan Fleming trained Barry O'Connell owned Tully East. Now, Tully East is a former Cheltenham festival winner. He actually won over fences, I think it was there a couple of years ago. But horses with course form in a place like Cheltenham is always worth taking note of. Plus the fact that an owner like Barry Connell, who not only has a very large string of horses, but basically has, of course, Alan Fleming training for him privately. They know how to lay one out the same as any trainer knows how to lay one out. And I think Tully East, again, I think he's around the 14, 16 to 1 mark, and he may well be worth having a go at. And the fourth race then is the big race tomorrow. The Queen Mother Champion Chase, the 2 mile. One of my earliest Cheltenham memories, believe it or not, is Adrian Maguire from Clemesson getting up to somehow win this race aboard Viking Flagship. I always remember, I still have the tape of it here somewhere. And Viking Flagship ran in the late Graham Roach's colours, the red and white stripes, and the cap flew off and jumped in the last. How he got the horse up to win, I do not know. It was one of the greatest finishes I've ever seen to any horse race, never mind the Queen Mother or a Cheltenham race. Now, that leads me in nicely to the race tomorrow that could or maybe should end up being something of a coronation for the great Altior. I mean, what can anyone say about Altior that hasn't been said already? He's been absolutely outstanding over hurdles, over fences. It's not just that he's winning races, it's the way he's winning them and the authorities win them with. Now, I know some Ruby Walsh said, I was reading or looking at an interview with Ruby on the telly yesterday evening, and he said every horse has to have an off day, and he was saying that he'd ridden some of the greats of all time, like Caught of Star and Big Books, and they all meet their match eventually. And Ruby was saying that um, which was right, of course, that the last day Call of Star run, he or not Call of Star, Altior run, he did jump violently to one side, and in the cutthroat of a championship race, that could open the door for something else. But look, I think in some cases there's no substitute for pure class, and I honestly don't believe there's any of the rest of them in the race as good as them. Uh, I know the Alan King trained So Royal is second favourite now. I wouldn't. I'm not knocking the horse, but it just wouldn't be for me. I think a horse called Saint Calvados at about 25 to 1 could represent a bit of value. St. Calvados come over to Naas very early in the jump season and defeated Footpad. Now, it has subsequently emerged that Footpad has had plenty of problems, but it would appear that Willie Mullins and his team now think that they've got to the bottom of these problems, and the whispers are that Footpad is fairly well fancied for the Ryanair later in the week. Now, if that is the case, St. Calvados's beating of him in Nice would look very steady form indeed, and I think at 25 to 1, he may be a good bet to finish second to Altior. It may represent a bit of value. Uh, the next race then after the Queen Mother is actually one of my two favourite races in at the Cheltenham Festival, both of which are on tomorrow. I'll deal with the second one in a minute. But the race in question, in this instance, is the cross country. Now, for as long as I've been backing horses or watching horses, the surefire formula for making money at the cross country has been the back end of Bulger. And of course, this was particularly the case when Nina Carberry was riding in the Bulger's horses. I'd back her no matter what she was riding, or no matter what, and did it again. And of course, Nina's not there now, but again, and has a very strong hand in it tomorrow. He has a horse called Overnet who actually won a fairly big regulation chase, as they call them. In other words, an ordinary chase earlier in the season. And by all accounts, the talk coming out of Enda's yard has been that he'd been flying, and then, of course, he has another horse who's become something of a standing dish at Cheltenham, a horse called Josie's Orders, who has won it before on one occasion in a roundabout sort of way, but he did win it. Um, he'd have to be respected, but you talk about standing dishes in Cheltenham and regular visitors, and my God, there's been no more regular visitor in recent years than the Gordon Elliott trained Tiger Road. Remember, this is a horse who, as a 4-year-old, won the Triumph Hurdle. He has won absolutely a vast array of races and a huge amount of prize money. He's a little horse. He might be called Tiger Road, but I tell you one thing, he's the heart of the line. Last year's Aintree Grand National winner, of course. He then came out and won a very valuable hurdle race in Navanham, what was only supposed to be a prep run for Cheltenham. I just seen before I started recording, he's 6-5 favourite. He deserves to be. He would be, again, I hate using the phrase, but he would be the Irish banker for a lot of people. I would love to see him doing it for Keith Donoghue. Keith, a local lad from Nunchaklan, well, locally, he's only down the road. Um, he's had his career up and down with injuries and other bits and pieces. Brilliant rider, huge part of Gordon's team, and I'm hoping that the Tiger will roar over the line tomorrow evening, please God. Which then leads me on to uh, the what used to be the Fred Winter Juvenile Hurl. I think it's called the Boodles Hurl now or something like that. An absolute, it's basically an absolute minefield of a race again, as most of the Cheltenham races are, to be fair. But I suppose the nicest way of describing it, it's a race for horses that either wouldn't get into the Triumph Hurl or would be considered a little bit beneath um, Triumph Hurl class, if that's the most respectable way of putting it. There'd be a huge field and each way betting is absolutely essential. The two I picked out, well, Band of Outlaws could not have been more impressive in his last win in Nace, I think it was. I know Joseph O'Brien had another horse in the same race belonging to JP McManus, so it's very well fancied, but didn't he couldn't lay a glove on on Band of Outlaws, and I would expect him to be very well difficult to beat. I tell you what didn't catch me eye. Willie Mullins is running a horse in it that, to my knowledge, has never ran for him before. A horse called CL de Neige, and to try a horse first time out in such a race, and for Ruby to ride him gives you some indication of what they obviously think of the horse in Closutton. He's owned by Guy Charel, a Frenchman who seems to be putting more and more bloodstock into Ireland. I know he's horses with Willie and he's horses with Liz Doyle as well, under the banner of his ML Bloodstock operation. So for Willie to be putting a horse like him in first time out in a race like this tells you all this you need to know about him. When I checked the betting there a few minutes ago, he was 16-1, I think, and I would certainly be all over that. All of which now leads me to the last race tomorrow, which is, of course, another one of my favourite races of the entire week. It's the Cheltenham Champion Bumper. Now, I love bumpers. Some people, you see them leaving the races before the bumper comes along, but I can never understand that. And I tell you, I take more note when I see people come in, especially to watch the bumper. I suppose part of my thing about loving bumpers initially was because I used to always back Nina. And I tell you, backing Nina was a great way to learn about backing backing winners, because the amount of winners the woman rode for Noel Mead and so many other people over the years was outstanding. And I would be very lucky to say that I was the better of having backed a lot of them. But look, Cheltenham Bumper tomorrow may not be quite as deep a race as it has been in other years. Certainly, I don't think Willie is certainly not the dominant force in it the way he used to be. But I tell you what are what operations are becoming more of a force in Irish national hunt racing is the Chevely Park stud colours of the Thompson family. Now these colours would be very familiar in high end flat races in England particularly, and to see them getting involved in jump racing here in Ireland, number one is a great endorsement of jump racing here in Ireland, but it tells you that they're fairly serious about when you see the amount of horses they have now with Gordon and Henry de Bromhead and Willie, and I'm sure they'll go to other yards too. But they have a horse running in the bumper tomorrow called Envoy Allen. He has looked very impressive in what he has done so far. He, in his first couple of outings in particular, he was absolutely outstanding. The last day, though, it showed another side of his character in that he actually had to get down and get into a battle the last day at Leopardstown, and he did that and he mucked it out. And I would be very, very sweet on his chances tomorrow. The two horses I picked out for the Cheltenham bumper for a long way out. Unfortunately, neither of them made it. Another Cheveley Park horse with Gordon, horse called Malone Road, who looked exceptionally good the first race he ran, and the William Runs trained Black Bow, who actually ran in the race last year and hasn't been seen since last year, but looked very good in it. He had a mentored opening, but for whatever reason he didn't make it. But I have a feeling the Cheveley Park owned Envoy Allen, as I say, is the horse to beat. However, if there was one horse to give him a bit of trouble, it may have a bit of an unusual story to it. Now, Joseph O'Brien having top horses is by no means an unusual story now, either on the flat over jumps, but I'm just after noticing that his brother Donica is going to be getting the leg up on a horse called Meticulous in the bumper tomorrow evening. It's owned by Michael Tabor. It has looked impressive in what it has done so far. Uh, and I just think it's 13-2 at the minute. And if there was a bit of value, if Envoy Allen didn't click, I think the fact that Donegal O'Brien has taken the ride is tip enough in itself for as regards what they think of the horse. And I would certainly be having a view bomb on him. I hope some of these click for us, for me, if just to let you all know. If they don't win, I'll be feeling the pain as much as anyone else that listens to this will, because I'll be backing most of them or all of them myself. I hope to go well. I hope he's enjoyed the day, and I'll have a go at day three further on down the line. Thank you very much.